Okay, so we got to number 10, which is not on the screen yet because I have to push that button. And now it's on the screen. And now we can go ahead. Okay, number 10 is something that kids in grade 9 don't really pay attention to. And then the problem with it, because it seems super easy, and the problem with it is in grade 10 and 11, it really starts to mess you up. And the thing that you need to be paying attention to on this is right there. What does that do to everything that follows it? Turns it into its opposite. So this part up here, easy peasy, you just follow it normally. But this part back here now has to change. That becomes negative 5x squared. And everybody remembers to change the first one. And then they don't change the rest of them. What does that negative 4 become? Positive 4x. And what does that negative 12 become? Positive 12. And that is where you guys screw up. You all pay attention to this first one, but everybody forgets about the other two. What if there was like 6 more things before the bracket? What would happen to all of them? They would all change too. Okay? So we had 9x squareds, and then we took away 5x squareds because there's no other x squared. So how many x squareds do I have? 4. I got 4x squareds. Now my x squareds are taken care of. I got 6 x's, I added 5 x's, and then I added 4 more x's. So how many x's is that? 15 x's. Nice. And then I had 9, and I added 12. What's that? 21. Look at that. Okay? Now, when I say show your work, anything is better than nothing. Okay? As we go through the year, I'm going to be trying to refine the way you guys show work. Because believe it or not, the way you show work actually will help you when it comes time to study for things. Okay? If you follow a certain format, it will make studying and preparation for further testing and further work easier on you. But for now, I'm not too concerned with it. Understand what I'm saying? Cool. All right, so the next one's the exact same thing, yeah? Except there's more happening. What's happening right there? Multiplication. And what else is happening there, Josh and Deep? Not only is it multiplying, what is it multiplying? A negative. So what's going to happen to all those signs? They're going to change. So that 4 is going to multiply by negative 2x. So what's it going to become? Negative 8. Can I forget about the x? No, but everybody does. It's something that drives us math guys crazy. What's that negative 6 going to become? Positive 12. And what happens with the letters? X, Y. You can't put x and y together in any other form than that. What's going to happen to the positive 5? It's going to become negative 10xz. Now, over here, what's happening right here? Division. Where does that division go? This is another thing that kids do wrong all the time. What has to happen? That 2 had to go to everything, yes? So where does that 3x have to go? To everything. Not negative 3x right there, you dummy. So, what does this become? 3x. What does this become? Minus 4 what? xy. And what does this become? Minus 6xz. Now I can put together x's, xy's, and xz's. And then it becomes just like it was before. And we get Negative 5x plus 8xy minus what? 16xz. I'm glad nobody said, but two negatives make a positive, because of course they don't when you're adding. And finally, number 12. I don't know, there it is. The last question for you guys. Write an equation to find this. So, what do we know about these values? We know something about that. They add up to the perimeter, right? So everything yellow has to equal 13.6, right? But we can't write everything yellow equals 13.6, can we, Lexi? It's math class. We got to use some numbers and some letters, yeah? So let's do so. How many x's do I have? 2. 2 x's. Why isn't it x squared? Because I'm not multiplying, am I, Rihanna? I'm adding. It's 1x plus another x. So that's 2 x's. Plus 2.5 plus 4.3 equals 13.6. Now I wrote all that up. It'll appear magically in a second. Ta-da! Because my computer doesn't work very well. Which is 2x plus 6.8 equals 13.6. Now this also drives math teachers crazy, because we have students that tell us they don't know how to solve that because there's decimals. You can laugh, Lexi. It happens. I have math students that say they cannot do that because there's decimals. Does how a math problem look change how you do it? No. Just like if I walked in here wearing the best sleeping bag I've ever seen. I don't know if you guys saw this on Facebook. It's a bear that you zip yourself into, and it's got the head, and you sleep, and you look like a bear asleep on the ground. I thought it was cool. You guys apparently don't. You're telling me you wouldn't want a sleeping bag that looked like a bear? You guys are lame. Go home and Google it, and then you'll see it, and you'll be like, yeah, okay, I want that sleeping bag. Anyway, if I came in here wearing the bear sleeping bag and proceeded to teach math, would you still take notes? Why? I'm still the math teacher, I just look different. What if I grew a beard? That was my favorite episode of Family Guy. I don't like a lot of episodes of Family Guy, but when the Russians took them hostage, then he says, just let me grow a beard while I think about it. And the beard grows like right away. I thought it was pretty funny. I can't grow a beard that fast. Anyway, so of course you do what with this 6.8? You subtract it out, and you subtract it out over here. Now, would you ever really do -6, borrow from here? Would you ever do that in grade 10? Or do you just get out your calculator to do that? You just get out your calculator. But the problem, Rihanna, is because you get out your calculator, you guys don't know what you're actually doing. And when it changes how it looks, people still say, I can't do it anymore. Which is why you should write it out, even though you're not going to do it. Do you understand what I'm saying? So then 2x equals whatever that is. It's 6.6, but it's not 6.6. It's 6.8. Yeah. And then, of course, you would divide by 2, and x would equal 3.4. Now, I know at the beginning of this exercise, everyone's like, oh my God, Mr. Myers, I can't do math anymore. It's, But as I walked around, I heard everybody talking about math. And as I sit here right now, I hear a lot of people giving me answers that are correct, right? So even though it felt like you were poopy at math, you're really not. Because this was essentially a grade 9 final. And all of you were able to do it, right? At least some of it, yeah? And all of you had 2 months off. Some of you had 8 months off from math, and you still all would have passed the grade 9 final. So I do this to help you guys realize that even though it might feel that you're math, you're actually not. You're like, yeah, math, I kick your ass. Everybody good? Everyone feels a little bit more confident than they did at this time yesterday morning, I hope. Sure you do, JR. Don't be that way. Right? Yeah, that's the stuff. Okay. So, I will call your attention to, on your books, I believe it is page 12. The first page you guys will see is an outline. Actually, leave that outline open for a moment. Just flip back one page to that. I think this is wrong, though. I think you guys have a different outline than me. Is it the same stuff? I know yours is printed way bigger, but is it the same? Yeah, okay. This is... It's not? Son of a bee. You guys are outrageous orchid. Oh, that's right, yeah, because this is not in the course anymore. That's right, we took that out. Okay. You wear glasses? You shouldn't forget them. It's no good. I mean, it's not a big deal if you don't drive to school. Like, if I forget my glasses and try to get here, you guys will hear about carnage on the roads because I'll have driven into like 27 cars because I am as blind as a bat. Anyways, this is good. Please, guys, every unit I will be referring to your outline because I'll do things like I'll write on here when we do quizzes and when we do things. And remember, like I was saying yesterday, the quizzes they're a little bit different than you're probably used to. But all the stuff we do is always on here. Now, this right here looks like a textbook page. And sometimes what I did was I took that textbook page and I photocopied it, and it's in your book already. Okay? So you would flip to the page in your book, and it would say page 64 with the numbers on it. But I didn't do it for this unit. So this is just review. Everybody cool? Now, reviews are some of those assignments that I talked about because there's no answers provided for them. Okay, you do a review every chapter in your books. We'll mark them. That's something that would be going into your assignments bin that I talked about in the outlines, worth 30% of your year. Okay? And as you can see, most of the rest of this stuff is homework and practice. Again, that's on you. Everybody good? All right. So now we can go to page 12. You don't need to write your name on there, but some of you will anyway. So the first unit I like to do is on measurement because I just like to get it out of the way. I don't particularly like it, so I get it out of the way. Now, one of the things that you need to be aware of is there's two ways to measure things in the world. There's the way the Americans do it, and then there's the way everybody else in the world does it. But unfortunately, since we live attached to America, we have to learn both ways. Most of the rest of the world doesn't bother learning the American way. They just like, that is so stupid. Why would you ever measure anything that way? But sadly, since we are attached to them, we have to. So we'll start off. We got the two systems. There is the American system. Does anyone know what it's actually called? Yes, it is the Imperial System. And I'm not going to lie to you, it's used in the US, but it's also used in 2 other countries in the world. 2 out of the 192 countries in the United Nations. Can anybody guess what one of the other two countries is? No. 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 You're thinking too big. No. Getting warmer with size. No. Wyatt? No. No, you're never going to guess it because these two countries are countries you would never guess. No. Oh, you are getting warm with Zimbabwe. You are on the right continent for one of them. That's a continent. Yeah, the whole continent doesn't choose. I'm talking single countries. No, neither Congo.
South Africa.
No, South Africa is too smart. No, but they have cool penguins. North? There's no country called North Africa. No, there's West Africa and South Africa, but there isn't North or East Africa. I know, it's weird, right? Papua New Guinea? No.
Egypt.
No. No, you're on the wrong coast. Got to come over to the west coast of Africa. There's a song for the countries of Africa? It must be the stupidest song in the world.
Yeah. Have you seen it?
The Animaniacs one?
You should Google it.
Is it the Animaniacs one?
I don't know.
No.
I think we should.
No. But I may look at it when I let you guys work. The two other countries in the world, one is Myanmar, which is, you may know as Burma, which is one of those backwards countries in the world. And the other one is Sierra Leone, which is, yeah, that's a long way down in the song. Tiny little country in Africa. Like, you couldn't even find it. It's one of those countries that you have to draw an arrow to it and write its name out in the ocean. You know what I'm talking about? Because the country is too small to write Sierra Leone in. Right? It's not like Canada where you start the C on Vancouver Island and you put the other A on Newfoundland and you got to get out a crayon you can write in your fist. It's one of those ones, little arrow, Sierra Leone. 3 world powers, America, Sierra Leone, and Myanmar. But because one of the 3 is America, we have to do it. You know what else is funny about America? Their military, which is all America cares about, doesn't do anything in Imperial. It's only the regular people on the street. I know, right? It's crazy, hey? Anyway, so the Imperial System, yes. What is the Imperial System based upon? Does anybody know? For measurement only. I'm not talking about weight and all that stuff. I'm talking about measurement only. Feet. Why do they call them feet? Because people had feet. The Imperial System is based upon body parts. Why is that stupid? Because everybody has different size feet. Right? And back in the day, it was the king that chose how long things were. So if you paid taxes on the amount of feet in something, and the king had small feet, were you happy? No. Carlin, think about that before you answer. If the king had small feet, and you paid taxes by the foot, were you happy? No. If the king had Shaquille O'Neal-sized feet, were you happy? Yes, very much so. So it's based on body parts for measurement. So, of course, it's idiotic. Right? It makes no sense. Now, while I'm talking about things in the imperial system, let's talk about the way we measure things. What are some things that we measure? Height. What else? Distance. Are height and distance the same thing?
Yeah.
Essentially, right? Just one goes up and down usually, and one is lying along the ground. If I lie down on the ground and then I stand up, does my height change? No, unless you want to measure my height from like my back to my sternum when I'm lying on the ground. But that would be stupid, yeah? We don't do that. We don't lie on the ground and measure that on the growth chart. That would make for a pretty boring side of the door, right? So we measure distances. What else do we measure? Pardon? Yes, absolutely. We measure volumes, don't we? How much Coke is in the can? Excellent. What else? Weight. Excellent. Anything else? That's good enough. I'm happy with that. So what are some measurements that we use in the imperial system for distances? In imperial, we got miles. What else? Yards. What else? Not in imperial. Feet. Inches. And that's pretty much all we use, right? Like if I say I got to walk 5 miles, you guys are, you're aware that that's a long ways, yeah? Everyone's cool with that? Okay. And if I say, you know, oh, it's a football school, we all know what a yard is, right? Rihanna. I'm sorry, what? Yeah, I was about to get to that. So those are distances, but Lexi and now Rihanna have mentioned other things. What do we use for volume? No. We use ounce. Yeah, ounces. And ounces are a weird one because they can be fluid ounces or weight ounces, right? What else? I heard somebody say it over there. Gallons? Someone said gallons. You guys are too young to say the one that everybody over the age of 19 says. Starts with a P. It's how you buy your beer. Pint. Someone said it. Pint. So everybody's cool with some volume ones. And then what are some weight ones? Pounds. Does anybody know any other ones for weight? Stones. Nice. That's British. And it makes perfect sense. It's 14 pounds for 1 stone. Why wouldn't you have a measurement like that? 14's a perfect one. What's funny is when you watch British rugby, they still talk about the guy weighing so many stones. Pounds. Ounces are also over here. Good. You guys know lots of stuff about that. Normally I don't get that many examples. Well done. What's the other form? I will give gummy bears to anybody who can name the other system properly. No gummy bears for you. We call it the metric system. That's its nickname. No. 10 gummy bears if you can come up with the proper name for the other term. No. That's okay. Nobody gets it. Math teachers often forget. We call it metric, but it's really called système because it's French. International, or the SI. We know it as metric. Why do we call it metric? No. We call it metric because it's based in measurement on what? Meters. It's called metric because it's based on meters for measurement. How long's a meter? If any of you say 100 centimeters, I'm going to be angry. Because when I ask you how long a meter is and you say 100 centimeters, does that actually tell me how long a meter is? No. How long's a centimeter? 10 millimeters. Okay, how long's a millimeter? 10 micrometers. Okay, how long's a micrometer? 10 nanometers. So, how long's a meter? It's as long as a meter stick. Okay. This is a meter stick. Is it?
It's 39 inches.
Is this thing in my hand a meter stick?
No.
No, of course not. Why do you know it's not a meter stick, Josh and Dee?
Too short.
Because it's too short. But how do you know how long a meter is?
Right there.
Because it's that?
Yeah.
How do they know when the guy who was sitting there with a saw making that thing, how did he know how long to make it? No.
39 inches.
No. Because it's 39 and a bit. Okay, that's your first piece of homework. How long is a meter? Nope. That is your first piece of homework. You have to go home tonight and tell me how long a meter is. Excellent. All right, so I'm out of room because I wrote that math question there, your homework question. So I'm going to erase that. Actually, no, I'll just write over here. What do we have for distances in the SI system? What do we use? Kilometers. km. What else? Meter. What else? cm. Millimeters. mm. What's the same thing all the way through there? Meters. They're all meters, right? What do we use for volume? Like, what do we use for how much pop is in the bottle? Liters. We use liters or milliliters. Now, you guys be smart kids. If we can have a centimeter, can I have a centiliter? Does it make sense? How big would it be? How big would if a liter, and we have milliliters, we have meters, and we have centimeters, how big is a centimeter compared to a meter? What fraction? 1/100th. So what would a centiliter be? Compared to a liter, what fraction? 1. If a centimeter is 1/100th of a meter, a centiliter is 1 what of a liter? 1/100th. That's why the metric system makes more sense, because it's always the same. So far, JR, you absolutely have an A. Now, here's the reason I bring it up. Do we use the measurement centiliter? Have you ever picked up a can of pop and seen centiliter written on it? No, unless you go to Europe where they do use it. A can of beer in Europe is 33 centiliters. 33 cl. Big brain. So liters, volume, and what's the other thing? Weight. What do we use for weight in metric? No. Kilogram. Kilogram. Now, what else? Grams. So everything's based on a gram. Everybody with me? If there is a gram, can there be a centigram? Which would be what fraction of a gram? 1/100th. Can there be a milligram? What fraction of a gram? 1/1000th. Just like a millimeter is 1/1000th of a meter. Everybody cool? All right. Now, somebody stole my next bit of my lesson from me. Which are these? SI or Imperial? These are SI. Somebody stole this bit from me when they gave an answer. Does anyone know what the word referent means? Refers to. Somebody said it. Okay. What would a referent be? If I refer to something, what am I doing? An example. Excellent. Am I saying what the thing is? No, I'm referring to it. So a referent is something we use to estimate a measurement. And it should be a regular everyday thing that we all have. Because very rarely are you carrying around a tape measure. If you had to make a referent for a millimeter, what do you think you could use? Now, the reason I said somebody stole this was because earlier I was talking about milliliters and somebody said a teardrop. That's a referent. So, what do you think a referent is for a millimeter? Talk amongst yourselves. What is something that we all have that we could use to say, oh, that's about a millimeter? Millimeter, not milliliter.
Oh.
Millimeter, a distance. Fingernail? Okay. Nice. Okay, now give me one for centimeter. You can talk, you don't have to sit quietly. What's something that's about a centimeter? What? Pinky. Yeah, sure. I would use my finger because I don't want to take my shoe off. And because my pinky toes are disgusting because they keep getting mashed up in rugby. My pinky toes are gross. They look like little pieces of hamburger. Shut up. It'll happen to you when you're old too. You play contact sports. It's not like you don't get your foot stomped on in football. Like your fingernail bit? Yeah, the first little bit. Okay, now, what is important here? Because both of you chose stuff on your hands, right? Well, you said pinky toe, but then you agreed, right? What is important here? You got to know what you're talking about, right? And if I have, again, I always use Shaquille O'Neal because I don't know anything about basketball anymore. Who's a giant basketball player right now? Like Shaquille O'Neal was, like 7'3", 300 pounds. I need a giant person now that plays basketball now so I don't sound like an idiot when I keep using Shaquille O'Neal. Huh?
There's a guy from Latvia who's like 7'1". What his name's right now?
Is he also big like Shaquille O'Neal? Is he 300 pounds or is he like skinny? Like
He's skinny. Yao Ming doesn't play basketball.
he used to.
Yeah.
I could use Yao Ming. He's a big dude. If my hand was that big, would I want his centimeter thumb? No, right? So the point of a referent is it's personal, right? You need to know what you mean by that, right? Kind of like the king with his big or small feet. So I'm sorry, what did we, I wrote pinky. You guys can write anything else. What would about a meter be? Your arm? No. That's pretty good.
Yeah. KD's arms are going to
Your what? Your leg? Go for Myers. Hello. Yeah, I'll fix it. Okay, bye. So arm, somebody said leg. I have very, very short legs, as you may or may not know. When I sit down beside real grown-up people, we're the same height. And then we stand up, and I come up to their belly button. Like Mr. DeVries and I are almost eye to eye when we sit down. But then when we stand up, it's so embarrassing for me. I have to wear, like, baby pants. When I go to rent a tux, they're like, I got to measure your inseam. And I don't really want a tape measure around my balls. So I tell the guy I have 28-inch legs. He's like, you're a grown adult man. You do not have 28-inch legs. And he says, I'm measuring whatever. And he measures 28 inches. He's like, wow, those are short legs. It's very embarrassing for me. It's why when I run, I look funny. Because if my legs have to go twice as fast to go the same distance, I look like a cartoon. Don't laugh at me.
Can you show us?
No, because there's not much room in here.
No.
One day, perhaps. Anyway, so we had somebody said an arm. Somebody said a leg. What about a step? You guys, when you go play football with your buddies, how do you measure a yard? What do? You take a step, right? So a step. Cool. What about a kilometer? Kilometers are tough, right? Because there's no body part that's a kilometer. How would you come up with a referent for a kilometer? What would you say? 10 steps? Kilo means 1,000. So it would be, right, it would be 1,000 steps. Okay, so Lexi says 1,000 steps. Right? What else could we use? Somebody said something about driving. How would you use driving?
It says on the, it's gonna say in the car when you go
Yeah.
out of kilometer.
Yeah.
Use that.
So, but how would you measure that though, Carlin? I understand what you're saying. Yeah, okay, you hop in your car, the odometer says 0. You drive a kilometer, it says 1. But how do you measure that? You use time. You have to measure it in terms of something else, don't you, JR? Look at you! Oh, I got to make another note here. JR, keep that A going. Yeah. So 1,000 steps, Lexi, absolutely 1,000 steps, because one step is about a meter, 100%, right? Or you could use time, right? If you're driving down the highway or down the street at 60 kilometers an hour, in 1 minute you've gone a kilometer, right? So it's about 1 minute of driving in the city. Cool? Excellent. Now let's talk about the relationships. Which of these 4, because those are the 4 ones we really use. There's others, but we only really use those 4 in Canada. Which of those 4 is the base? What's the one that we start from? Meters. Absolutely right. This is my base. And then, how does it work? A centimeter, we've already talked about it, is what fraction? Why is it 1/100th? Right, but why is it cent? Cent means 100 in what language? French. And who invented this system? French people. Excellent. So this is 1/100th of a meter. Now you guys are smart kids. What if we were talking about liters? It would be what? 1/100th of a liter. What if we were talking about grams? Be 1/100th of a gram. That's why metric is so much better. So what would millimeter be? 1/1000th. I'm glad nobody said million, because everybody hears millimeter and they think it's million, but it's not, because in French, mille is 1,000. Okay, so you guys are smart kids. 100, 1,000. What's the relationship there?
They have ones and
Absolutely correct. What else?
zeros.
Excellent. What else? Yeah, you know. How many zeros are in that one? How many zeros are in that one? So what's the relationship? What do you have to do to get from 2 zeros to 3 zeros?
Another zero.
Mathematically, what do you do? Yeah, you do. What's 12 times 10?
121.
12 times 10. 120. Why is it 120? What'd you do?
Add the zero.
You add a 0. So what did I do here?
Add the zero.
By multiplying by 10, right? Okay. So if I go from the base to 1/100th and 1/100th to 1/1000, aren't I missing a step right here? What am I missing? 1/10. So right there is the 1/10th one. That's the first one that we don't ever use. So we're going to write it down over here. That is a decimeter. DM. Or a deciliter, or a decigram, because of decimal, 1/10. Everybody cool? Okay. Kilometer is how big? We know that it's 1,000 meters, right? So how many steps are missing there? 10 and 100. There's 2 steps missing there. The 10 is what we call a decameter, or a DAM. And the 100 is what we call, as soon as my pen starts working again. Oh, now it's really frozen. High quality. Hectometer, or HM. And those are all the steps. I'm going to write that down again in a little bit to show you all the steps in the metric system. And why it's so important is it works for every single measurement. It doesn't matter if you're weighing stuff, if you're doing volume, or if you're measuring a distance. It is always milli, centi, deci, base, deca, hecto, kilo. And then, of course, you know what comes after kilo because you guys are all computers. Right? What's after kilo? What's after a K? After a kilobyte, what's after it?
L.
Megabyte. What's after megabyte? Gigabyte. What's after gigabyte? Terabyte. And then I don't know what's after terabyte because my biggest piece of computing equipment is a terabyte. But whatever it is, it's 10 times bigger. Understand? Wise ass. And then going smaller, it goes milli, nano, pico, and then I don't know. Because anything smaller than a pico is like, how long my legs are. See what I did there? Because I had short legs? Okay, shut up, Myers. So down here is imperial. We know what all those are. What's a referent for an inch? How long's an inch? Your thumb? Sure. Which part? Just that part?
Where the line is.
Where the line is? Let's check. For me, it is exactly from where the line is. Look at you. I should put your name on here too, Josh and Deep. But since it's a small piece of paper, I'm just writing JAS. But then it's like I'm just joking. Okay. Nice work. What about a foot? This is a really hard one. What's the referent for a foot? Jordan? A foot. Nice. But really, what kind of feet? Some of you girls probably have little tiny feet. My wife has canoe feet. She's very embarrassed by them. Well, she has a normal sized body, except her feet are gigantic. She could like water ski on them. Big feet. My wife has gigantic feet for a woman. They're like the same size as me. I mean, I don't have giant feet, but her feet are big for a girl. She's very embarrassed when she goes to the store. They're like, what size? Pardon me? Pardon me? Because she doesn't want to say how big her feet are. And now my daughter also has giant feet. My daughter is very embarrassed by it too. My son has normal feet. But my daughter's like, I don't want to buy shoes. My feet are too big. I'm like, honey, don't worry about it. It'll be fine. What girl in here wants to say their foot size? You're not a girl. Emma Lynn, how big are your feet? In girls? That's a big foot. I can imagine you have trouble finding dress shoes. Yeah, my wife can't find heels, and she's only a 10 in women. No, neither does she. Yeah. It would be tough enough for you, yes. I can understand that. My wife's, but see, 6'2", big feet for when you're 6'2", for a lady is fine. My wife's only 5'5". I know, right? See, now the canoe feet, Emma Lynn is like, whoa, those are gigantic feet. What are yours? You got little tiny feet, so if the wind blows really strong, you fall over?
So when all the women's shoes run out, I'm like, yeah, all the kids section, and then their shoes, way cheaper.
Yeah. That screws over my kids. My daughter can't find Heelys that will fit her. She wants Heelys more than anything. Every time we go to the States and we go to Big Five, she's like, Dad, can I get some, or no, they're wheelies. What are they called, Heelys or wheelies? Heelys. She was, Dad, I want to get some Heelys. I'm like, no, you can't get Heelys. And finally, one time, they were only $20. Like, fine, you can get some Heelys. But I knew that they were on the clearance rack. There wouldn't be any that would fit my daughter. So she was like, oh, I can get Heelys. Yeah! And she ran over to the clearance rack, and she couldn't find any that fit. And then she was all sad. And I was like, oh, Beth, I'm so sorry. I wish that they had Heelys for you. So I don't want her to have Heelys. They're dangerous. I'm sure they're a good time. My daughter I would trust, but my son is a clumsy oaf. I actually went for a bike ride with my son. I've been letting him ride his bike to school for the past 3 years. I actually went for a bike ride with him. It was the scariest thing I've ever done. I almost will not let him ride his bike to school. He's the worst bike rider in the world. No hands, all over the road, cars flying at him. I can't believe he's gotten to school every day of his life since grade 6 on a bike. I cannot believe I even have a son anymore.
My bike got stolen.
Did it? That sucks. My kid's bike got stolen too by a hobo at 7-Eleven, but we found it. I'm not joking. It was a hobo. I like using the word hobo. It was a homeless person, but I like saying hobo. But yeah, we found it.
Where?
In the field behind his school. I think somebody noticed the hobo riding away on a very nice bike that was way too small for him, and he just dumped it and ran. All right. A yard. Well, a step, because it's almost the same as a meter. And a mile. How big is a mile? Does anybody actually know? Is it bigger or smaller than a kilometer?
It's bigger.
Bigger? How many? How big?
Like 12
Close. It's 1.6, but nobody can do 1.6. So you do 1.5, right? So about 1,500 steps. Now these 4 sections here, this is the most important section because this is where I get to make fun of people that still measure this way. Because metric's simple, right? Oh, multiply by 10, divide by 10. We can do that in our head, yeah? That's because you're wearing a back brace. It's easy to convert in metric. All you do is add or take away a 0, right, Josh and Deep? Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Anybody can do it. You can teach a dog to do it. But imperial, we'll start with an inch, right? Or should we start with a foot, or should we start with a yard, or should we start with a mile?
With the foot.
It doesn't matter, does it? Because there isn't a base. Josh and Deep says we're going to start with a foot. Okay, we're going to call the foot the base. Great. So how big is an inch compared to a foot? What's the fraction? 1/12. That's a good way to count, isn't it, Eden? Because everybody knows how to multiply and divide by 12. That's everybody's best times table, isn't it? No, it isn't. 1/12. All right, fine. Okay, I get it. We'll go by 12. So that must mean a yard is 12 feet, doesn't it? But it isn't. What's a yard? How many feet are in a yard? 3 feet. Which means there's how many inches in a yard? 36 inches. Because 36 is an easy number to work with, isn't it? Totally. What's a mile? It should be a nice, easy number, shouldn't it? Right? Anybody know what it is? It's 5,280 feet. That's a good number, isn't it? Kilometer, 1,000 meters. Easy. Mile, I don't know. Which is, are you ready for the yards? 1,728 yards. Nice, easy number to work with. I'm not even going to do inches because that's stupid. You would never measure a mile in inches. But it would be funny. How far did you drive on your trip? 3 million inches. It's like people that measure their baby's ages in months, even when they're over a year old. How old's your baby? 26 months. Your baby's 2.
That's 4. That's 3 actually.
26 months is 2, dude.
No.
12 months in a year.
Never mind.
Yeah. I'm just going to fix this, JK. I'm going to drop you to a B there, okay, buddy?
Leave it there.
Oh, okay, I'll leave it there. I like sometimes as a joke to say I'm 504 months old. So I'm 42 years old.
Oh, honey.
Why you got to be that way? You're going to be 42 soon. Sooner than you think. You guys want to do something fun with numbers just to take a break? Some of you have heard this joke before, so don't give it away if you have. How many of you think that you are 1,000,000 seconds old? 1,000,000. That's a big number. How many of you think you're 1,000,000 seconds old? Honestly, come on. It's a big number. I want to see if you guys understand numbers. Are you 1,000,000 seconds old? Yeah, you are. You were 1,000,000 seconds old when you were 11 days old. When you were a baby this big, you were 1,000,000 seconds old. Now, how many of you are 1,000,000,000 seconds old? How many of you are 1,000,000,000 seconds old?
I was.
Yeah.
You're going to be 1,000,000,000 seconds old when you're 37. That's the difference between million and billion. 11 days is 1,000,000 seconds. 37 years is 1,000,000,000 seconds. So when you guys hear governments talking about billions of dollars, be aware of how much money that is. They talk about it like it's nothing. And then remember that America has $1 trillion debt. A trillion seconds would be 37,000 years to the world. All right. Let us move on, cabbages. Joke never gets tired. This is all we are going... Oh, how long are we in class today? I don't even know. It's a collab day, so you're leaving soon, aren't you?
It's like 10.
You're amazing. It's 10:11. It's not the same thing. You're in a math class. You have to know that 10 and 11 are different numbers.
That's it.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Your job for the next 10 minutes is to try to fill in. Your page should end at 1.5, yes? Try to fill that page in. Now listen, please. Please notice I want an estimate in both systems. Okay? No Googling. Talk to your neighbor. You have reference. We made reference on the first page. Fill that page in. That's your homework. Along with answering one question. What was that one question? How long is a meter? And it is not a meter stick. Okay? Go. You got 10 minutes.